Good evening, Professor.
Thank you.
Hi, Professor Olafemi. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm
Good
very
evening, my
fine.
queen.
Good evening, everybody. We are very blessed to have Dr. Jessica Ash with us today. Thank you
Yes.
for joining us.
Bless her.
Your Majesty, how are you this evening?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm good. I had free time today and I thought, who do I want to hang out with? Well, and I'm here.
Wow. Wow, we are blessed to have you today.
Good. Thank you for coming.
I'm blessed to be here.
Everybody, Sarah, Hadi, Naomi, Dr. Zain, Brother Raj, Madam Oluchi, all of you, thank you for coming. You are all welcome. Okay, so let's start. Today we are going to be exploring the concept of epistemology, which simply means the theory of knowledge. And I'm going to challenge our notion of knowledge and how do we know that we know something? How do we know that we know something? And we'll be looking at that from the perspective of transpersonal or spiritual knowledge. And so the question is, a lot of people have so many misconceptions when it comes to the idea of spiritual knowledge, because it's a kind of knowledge which is not accessed through our sensory apparatus. However, because we are all used to the Cartesian system of knowledge, so oftentimes a lot of people within the religious circles, they normally approach spiritual knowledge from a Cartesian mode of knowing, which is simply a positive philosophy of knowledge. That is what I'm trying to say in essence, is a knowledge that is accessed by using our physical senses, the five senses. And so tonight I will start with a question, and the question is, how can I be sure that I know something? How can I be sure that I know something? And when it comes to the arena of spirituality, there are many misconceptions, and which raises a lot of questions. For example, how do we know that I know something spiritually? How do we know something spiritually? How do we assess spiritual knowledge? And the core thing I want us to look at tonight is, what is the nature of spiritual knowledge? What is the nature of spiritual knowledge? How does it look like? How do you know something spiritually? How do we assess that? So let me ask that question, and I really want us to contribute to that. So the first thing I'm going to ask us before I do anything is, how do we know that we know something spiritually? I want someone to share their experience with us. Anyone in the house to share your experience. How do you know something spiritually of which you cannot prove to other people? I mean, I know it's posing a challenge. So you say you know something spiritually, but you cannot prove it to people. How do you navigate that? Yeah. Okay. Dr. Jesse?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I do not have the final answer, but I like engaging conversations. I don't like lectures either. And so I'm happy to participate and get to a possible answer. And you're in the area of faith, obviously, and when people take things on faith, it's not provable.
Yeah.
And I use a rubric of knowledge for this. That's physics tells us laws like gravity. This will fall. That's a law. Physics tells us how, but it does not tell us why. So I would say, if it tells us why something happens, then maybe it's spiritual.
Okay, interesting. So the why question. So it falls, but it doesn't tell us why. So where do we go to find the why? That's another interesting question, you know. And my challenge, I'm still posing the question back to, to the audience, is a lot of people claimed, and they claim, oh, I know something, I know it, but I can't prove it. Is it possible to know something that you cannot prove? If you know something that you cannot prove, where is the evidence that you know it? So you know something spiritually, but you cannot prove it. But the question is, why is the evidence? How can you give the evidence that you are sure that you know something? Anyone want to help us out? Yeah. Yeah, I got lovely hands here. Let me start. Your Majesty, yes. We'll start with you, then start the lane. Okay.
I would say if I know something and I cannot prove it to the others, I would say it doesn't matter if I cannot prove it, because I know it. I know it by my own experience. I don't even have to prove to anyone. My attitude, my behavior will teach, because when you know something by experience, it became an absolute knowledge. It's like you know how to drive when you start driving. You understand? So it is an absolute knowledge. And when you have this absolute knowledge, because you have experienced it spiritually, you have experienced it. So you don't even need to speak about it, because your behavior speaks for you. And then because of your behavior, they will start to ask you, people will start to ask you some question. You will give your experience, but you don't need to prove anything to them. They will do the same than you. You don't even have to convince them, because they will be convinced only when they will experience it by themselves. Otherwise, it will remain a relative knowledge, just by a reported knowledge. I was told, I read about that, and that it's not real knowledge. It's a relative knowledge.
Wow.
It's not an absolute. This is what I think.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. Let me quickly summarize what you said, Your Royal Highness. You have put us into the domain of behaviorism. So according to what you said, Your Royal Highness, that if someone has an experience and they know something, it will show in their behavior. And that is a behaviorist approach to learning. So you are saying to us that if someone actually experienced a spiritual phenomenon and they know something spiritually, we should see the evidence in their behavior. And through the behavior, people will know that they don't need to prove it, but it should reflect in their behavior. That's so amazing. So I call that transpersonal behaviorism.
Wow.
that is what you just proved to us. I mean, and that's very profound. It's very profound, Your Royal Highness. But I'm tempted. I don't want to dabble into that. I don't want to dive into deep waters at the beginning of this class today. But it's a very profound thing you said. The other thing you said that is so profound is a role of experiential knowing. Experiential knowing. And which becomes absolute knowledge. In fact, you have moved us to the philosophy of relative truth and absolute truth, which is very profound. It's part of what I'm going to share tonight, during the course of today's class. So let me repeat what I said again. if you have an experience, spirituality always comes with, phenomenal experiencing something, supernatural, whatever you want to call it. However, that experience always leads to an evidence. Yeah, to an evidence. For example, I cannot look at you objectively from the outside and deny the reality of your subjective experience. I'll say it again. I cannot look at you and say, oh, if you said to me that, Femi, I am experiencing this subjective reality, there's no way that anyone looking at you from the outside can deny the reality of your subjective truth. And that poses a great challenge when it comes to the spiritual dimension, because spirituality is a part of our subjective reality. It is something that we cannot assess through the use of natural senses. So, and that puts us in a very controversial domain. And the question is, how do we know that we know? 1, 2, what is the nature of spiritual knowing? How do we know that we know? Sister Delaney, you raise your hand. Please, can you please share your thought with us? Thank you.
Good evening, all protocols observed. I think you've said it all already, Her Royal Highness, yourself, Jessica, but I will add, my addition would be that everything begins in the realm of the spirit, and then in so doing, it will manifest in this material realm. So the evidence will come because it will manifest in this realm when you've had a spiritual experience, because it's first in the spirit and then it's revealed in this realm to us. And usually for me personally, when I have an experience like that, the confirmation comes from the word of God being for me, the Bible. Usually I get a confirmation in the Bible, and it will be so distinct and so confirm exactly what I've seen in the spirit. Yes.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So, I mean, for you said the spiritual dimension starts, it all starts from the spiritual dimension, and then it manifests in the physical dimension. And so, I mean, joining what you said with what Dr. JC said and Her Royal Highness, I can see a common theme, from your discourse so far. And the theme I can identify from your discourse is the fact that there are two dimensions of reality, and that is the spiritual dimension of reality, yeah, and also the material of the physical domain of reality. Now, because we have those two domains of reality, that tells us that there are two knowledge that can be assessed. Spiritual knowledge and then physical knowledge. So in the physical dimension of things, we assess our knowledge of things through the use of our sensory apparatus. Yeah, the eyes, the ear, the touch. So we assess within our environment, and this is how it starts. It always starts with a stimulus. So there's a stimulus within your environment that sends a signal, and your senses, our senses has receptive apparatus through which you receive signal from your environment, and then you are able to interpret that signal, and then you react or you respond into that with that stimuli. Now, in the same line of thought, spirituality also has the same stimuli response factor. There is a stimuli within the spiritual domain of things that leads to you eliciting a response through your spiritual apparatus. So, and that talks about the third eye. One of the phenomena of that we all have the ability to sense, the ability to receive from our higher self, the ability to sense information within the spiritual domain, which is purely subjective. However, the question is, how can we prove it? And then the emergency said, oh, you don't prove it. It is seen in your behavior. That's very interesting. That you don't prove it, but the proof, according to what emergency said, it should be reflected in your behavior. That means if I receive certain information, which is purely subjective through my higher self, through the spiritual senses that I have, it should have a direct impact on my behavior. I strongly subscribe to that, because what is the beauty of you, claiming to receive spiritual information and it's not showing in your behavior? So that brings a lot of question, about the nature of spiritual knowledge. Again, another thing that we can draw, another inference we can draw from that statement is that spiritual knowledge is a knowledge that can translate into objective reality. I'll say it again, that spiritual knowledge is not a mystical thing. You can access it through a mystical experience, but the nature of spiritual knowledge comes within your cognitive ordinary consciousness. That is, I can clearly, distinctly receive knowledge from my higher self that I can use to navigate my world. Because the ultimate use of any spiritual encounter is to influence the quality of the life I live in the natural world. That is the use of that, But a lot of people, believe that the spiritual knowledge, you should be suspended in the air, and then you don't talk to people. You you float in the air all day long. Come on, you become utterly useless, because what is the point of you floating in the air and you cannot communicate with your neighbor, with yourself, with your wife, with your kids? And so, to me, that is not true essence of spirituality. A true essence of spirituality is a spirituality that will receive knowledge that impact our cognitive ability, our sense of judgment, our decision-making process. Through spiritual knowledge has the ability to improve the quality of your decisions. That's it. If truly you receive information from your spirit, the nature of that should reflect in my decision making, the way I treat people, my value system. This is true reflection of spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge that does not translate in values that uphold the dignity of humanity is questionable. It's questionable. True spiritual knowledge should reflect in my value system, in the way I treat people, starting from the way I treat people that I presume cannot add anything to me. Maybe I, in the society, put them as in the lower category of the society. How do you treat people? Even people that you presume they are higher than you in your professional life, So the challenge and the conflict of people that claim to be spiritual, and then we don't see the fruit of the impact of that knowledge in their decision-making process. It is very questionable. And that is what we want us to look at tonight. That how do we navigate, and what forms knowledge? So what is real knowledge? We all want our belief to be true and connect us to reality and not mere opinions. But again, what is real knowledge? Attaining knowledge and our concept of knowledge as humans is first of all an attainment concept. For example, in basketball, we shoot in order to score. So shooting is the activity, but the scoring is the attainment intended. Interesting. So our knowledge, which back what we just be sharing, that if you have a knowledge that is spiritual, you should be able to attain to standards and value system. If truly you have a knowledge, a spiritual knowledge, should lead to an attainment of value system, values that uphold the dignity of humanity, values that brings quality of peace. So that's the first concept of knowledge. So if you have a knowledge, it's like in ordinary, when you look at physical knowledge, now look at the nature of knowledge. So if I said, okay, I've acquired this knowledge, and I went to school, I studied, and I acquired this knowledge, what should be evidence of that knowledge? I should be able to attain certain things. That is the attainment concept of knowledge. Knowledge leads to an attainment of an intended goal. So if I have a knowledge of something, it gives me a cognitive ability to attain a particular action. In the same manner, spiritual knowledge gives you ability to attain certain quality, to carry out certain action. That is the true nature of spiritual knowledge, attainment. What is the use of gathering or experiencing a particular spiritual height or so-called height or experience or phenomenon that does not lead to attainment? Now, I'm going to put this question to us. Why do you think the so-called religious people that claimed to receive heavy, very deep, mystical knowledge from, whatever their concept of divinity, and then you don't see a corresponding attainment in their physical reality? What is the problem? Shall we discuss that? Thank you.
You want to discuss what the problem is?
Yes. Yeah.
The problem of what, Professor Wafemi? Sorry.
The religious claims of supernatural experiences that does not lead to attainment of actions that reflect the quality of such religion. What is the problem?
That's a great question. Because every religion, if I'm reading you right, if I'm on a wrong path, just tell me my brain has gone somewhere else. That Muslims think if you're not Muslim, then you are not worthy. According to Christianity, only Christians have the right religion, and there's probably something similar that I just don't know the clause of in the Jewish faith. And so there's a limit in every religion. I don't know why it exists, but for me, God is love. And if God is love, how can you kill in the name of God?
Thank you.
And I don't think that people use this. I think that this clause in most religions about only our faith is the right faith.
Yeah.
I think they use it to take people over. I think that like the war type people use that clause.
Mm.
I don't think that the majority of Muslims or Christians or Jews are sitting around thinking my religion is right and you are wrong. Like, what's the point in doing that all day long? But anyway, I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you. Bless you.
Those were my thoughts on that.
I mean, thank you so much for sharing that. Your Highness, what do you think about this concept of knowledge?
I believe a religion. This is the problem again of this relative knowledge that I was talking about. Religion is only belief, and when you believe in something, it's between the belief and the faith there's a big difference. And I believe that the problem is coming from here, because if they have faith, they will touch a higher energy, and they will discover that God is one and we are an element of God living in God. Wow. So because we are yes, when I say we are an element of God, living in God, it's like we are searching God like the fish is searching the water. He forgot that he is an element of water living in water. And this is what exactly we are. So the religion, you will notice that every religion came when the population was in trouble. So God is sent some prophets to teach at this period how to live in harmony, in peace, and in love, and respect one another. But because they didn't understand really the message that was given to them, so they were like ignorant, teaching the other ignorant. When every religion, and for example, a religion in French, religion, it's relier les gens, to link the people together, to make the unity. But because it was not understood, they started to make division, and they started to be in competition with one another, claiming their authority and to be the only one who is legitimate, which is a wrong and false vision and perception of the religion. God never said, build a synagogue, build a mosque, build a temple, build a church. He said, love one another, respect one another. You understand? Because God is everywhere. So you can pray in every place. And there's also a big difference, like we spoke last time, between prayers and meditation, between faith and belief. When you are in belief, you are limited because you are speaking, and you are praying God. You speak to God. But in faith, when you are in faith, you are just listening to God, and that it is your energy, your direct energy between you and God. Yep. In the religion, you are going to God through an intermediary. In spiritual matter with faith, you are in contact direct with God. It's a big difference. And that you cannot access to the powerful love or knowledge, spiritual knowledge, if you are using the religion as intermediary between you and God, because you have a wrong perception of God. You are searching God outside of you. You understand? I have seen a lot of people looking at the skies and praying, and then complaining why God is not answering to their prayers, because you are searching God. You are trying to use an intermediary between you and God, which is your environment. When you go deeply within you, you have access directly, and this is the big difference.
Wow. That is so profound. Thank you so much for sharing that. I wrote down something. You made a statement. You said we are elements of God living in God. I wrote it down. Your Highness.
That's true.
I can write 5,000 words essay on that. Is an element. You use the word element, which talks about the same substance. That is the foundation of spirituality, because God is a spirit, man is a spirit. He has a soul. He lives in the body. That is tripartite theology of the nature of man. And so when you talk about spiritual knowledge, why are we getting different interpretation? You see that different interpretation, and you said something about perception. It's very interesting what you say, Your Highness, in terms of when people pray and they look up, where is God? And you are saying God is in you. He's in you. It's in you, finding the God in you, because you are an element of God, living in God, which is so profound in terms of the subjectivity of the reality of God, that the concept of God, it's a subjective reality, which is part of what we have on our inside, is a reality within us. And not only the reality within us, it is part of our nature. So if that part of our nature, that means we have the access to the true knowledge of God without the intermediary of any religious ritualistic system. I'll say it again, that if we are element of God, living in God, that means we have a direct access to knowledge of God without going through the intermediary of religious ritual system. And that is a big challenge, Your Highness. That's a big challenge for everyone, that moving away from the psychology of religion into psychology of spirituality, and coming into that perception of God's existence, which in psychology we call him ultimate reality, and to assess that not outside of you, but within you. That's so profound. But it takes a different approach to knowledge, to have that, and that speaks about the mind of the spirit, the consciousness, using our spiritual mind or spiritual consciousness or the super consciousness, so in life of the mind, we believe in order to know. So like what you said, there's a link between belief, and knowing. And so if before you know something, so there is an element of belief. So I want to take us on that short journey now to look at the link between how belief and knowledge are philosophically interwoven. Just like similarly it said that just as you can shoot a basketball and not score a basket. And again, say you can believe something and not have knowledge. Wow. Is it true? You can believe something and you don't have the knowledge of that, what we believe. I'm here tonight to challenge us. How many things that we believe that we don't even have the knowledge? And we've based our decisions in life on things that we believe, and we don't have the real knowledge of it. You just believe because somebody told you. Your culture, even religion, And so I'm going to use this opportunity to encourage us, to challenge us. Let's look at our hidden assumptions about ourselves. What are the things we believe about life, about God, about reality, that you have not even experienced it, you don't have the knowledge of it, but you just believe it because it was handed over to you through traditions or through family tradition, through heritage or culture or religion. And that's a big issue. I was told of a story of a suicide bomber that said, okay, they told him that once he killed himself or blew himself, there are 7 virgins waiting for him at the other side. And my question was, oh, have you seen anybody that went there and then they came back that, oh, the virgins were there?
Yeah, I have that same question. And what did he say?
I mean, it's so profound. And people believe that kind of, believe that without that knowledge. And that's one of the most, the problem of dogmatism, that, people believe things, they don't have the knowledge of that. I said, who told you that when you die, there are 7 virgins waiting for you at the other side? 7 virgins waiting for you at the other side, And my question was, the religious leader that tell you to go and blow up yourself, why don't you ask that man to send his own son to first blow up himself, and show us example, and then come back? Why is he telling you to blow up yourself and you are motivated by 7 virgins, in the other side? Dr. Jesse, talk to me.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I don't have an answer, but I think about this question, and one of the ways in which in which I think about it is how best to motivate the human being. And when I think about Christianity, we're motivating people to become their best self, to go to heaven. And that's very abstract.
Yeah.
And then this other idea is very base, but in particular, men get it. Like, it's very real to them, and it is a very base and basic human trait that will not be relevant in the afterlife.
Yeah.
However, that's where some of humanity finds its motivation. And so I sometimes think Christianity has a harder time in convincing people to act the right way because we tell them the reward will be in heaven. Not now.
No. That was the whole Christianity. It has changed, Jesse. It has changed. Your reward is on earth, not in heaven. It has changed. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, what you said, having been a priest for over 35 years. Yes. Oh, Mr. Hussein. Yes, talk to me, sir. Thank you for raising your hand, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Mr. Said Hussein. Yes. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't unmute my mic. So I will repeat myself again. Good evening to everyone. Good afternoon. All greetings, all protocol observed. Special greetings to my dear sister, Queen Nadia. I don't know if I understood correctly your question, Doc, that you have asked previously, that in culture, things are imposed rather than practically done with and put it in your system. I'm just using an example. No, please do. I do apologize in advance if I hurt somebody's feeling, or it is because the people that are sitting at the stage where they call themselves the knowledgeable people, they also are getting the knowledge which they have or they're claiming is from somebody else's experience. So in my thought process, or in my thinking, they also are getting not imposing, I would not use that word, getting other people's practical avenues that they have gone through and they learned from, and they have put it in a paper, meaning putting a thesis on in PhD. You have to write a thesis, and it is a chain of reactions from the past to the future. It is, you cannot say one is imposing on you. It is the one is sharing their experiences, what they had done, and they get the results of it, and they're conveying it down to their next generation. So this is like in a human society, we live and learn. If I have 3 daughters, so if I tell my little one, I says, okay, listen, if she's going to a fire and trying to put her hand into a fire, I would not just sit there and let her get burned. I will, of course, tell her, honey, don't put your hand into that fire because it will burn you, it will hurt you. So how is it imposing not helpful? And even in cultural societies, where your traditions are the one that you think are humanly, like in humanity, it is better, like taking care of other people, helping the needfuls, you know, like, I don't know, do good deeds in your life. These are all taught. I don't know if I'm on the same page as you, Doc. Like I might be going away.
I mean,
or...
Dr. Hussain, I mean, I what you said is very profound. You said something. I want to pick on what you said. You made a statement that these people are sharing their experience, with other people. Now, I have a question for that. Why should I adjust my view of reality based on someone's experience? What do you think about that?
Okay, I have a little bit of you know, like thing on it. When you take the first step in your life on your 2 feet, are you not holding somebody's hand?
Absolutely, yeah. But,
okay.
Dr. Said, I'm talking about spiritual experience now. That's the domain. That's the background. You know, so you have a guru, or a priest, whatever. So they claim to have the spiritual experience, and then they are narrating it to you, and they are teaching you based on the experience. Well, it's what you said. That is based on a second-hand information, and they teach out of their experience and condition people's thinking. That is a challenge. So the question is, why should I adjust my view of spiritual reality based on a guru's experience? That's the question.
Okay, so if I may, if you take a child which is born, like, or even is before becoming into their maturity age or sensible age, you take that child, you take him away from the humanity. You put him in like some like place where there's no interaction of others, and let him grow in that environment. What would be, like, this will be my question to you, sir, if I may, that what you think that human that we just put it there at the age of, say, 3, 2, or 5 or 4, whatever age, and now we go back there 16 years or 18 years after, what do you think that human would have become?
Okay. Okay. Let me lay some fundamental ground, for you, sir. In transpersonal psychology, we don't see children. They are all spirits with a little body. Yeah, that is our philosophy. In transpersonal psychology, they are not children. They are children based on biological age. Spirit has no age. They are ageless.
No, bodies are just the vessels. I understand that, and I do. I beg you. I do like have firm belief in it also. That we are all spirits. The bodies are just the vessels, and they grow as we go, like aged. Okay, so what my question to you, sir, again, is, what do you think that a spirit that you have left abandoned in that jungle without any other spirits interaction, like the spirits could be there possibly, for him or her to interact with those spirits, how would he know how to interact with them, what to say, what not to say, what to do, what not to do? Like, for that, what I'm alluding to is, you need a culture, you need a society where you live and learn with. Everybody comes with the same knowledge and same like spiritual values, but not everyone becomes a president, or not everyone becomes, like a goon or daku or a murderer. So the teaching and the following of the others is a critical path for a spirit to guide your body vessel in a direction.
But it's to guide. I mean, Doctor, thank you for sharing that. You use the word guide, not to impose. Do you see that? It's a guide. A guide is different from imposing by giving a definition of their own subjective spiritual experience to become the standard for everybody. And that's the problem with religion, including my own Christianity that I subscribe to. This is what I'm saying. So you can guide somebody, but they should not adjust their spiritual reality to your experience, because your experience is very limited. That is the question, sir. So we all need a guide, but not adjusting our view of reality based on my guide experience. So when you say the guide, so the guide is only, I'm only going to guide you. These are the guidance. This is what I see from whatever source of divinity I believe in. But it's just a guide. I'm only a guide, but I'm not determining the reality of the experience. But that's not the case, because the human ego comes in, sir. And most of these guide, they now impose their religious belief and based on their experience on the followers. And that's why we have the division.
Let me ask you one thing, if I may, like how do you explain religion? What is religion?
Really, I will simplify it. This is my subjective interpretation of religion. Religion is just a ritualistic system of knowing God from the outside, not from the inside.
Well, I think I thought the religion was as a guidelines given to you under certain circumstances, if you adhere or if you come to how to overcome that, or how to solve it. These are the guidelines, right? It's not religion. Is not.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's a guide, but religion is trying to know God from outside, not from the inside. It has a ritualistic system. Every religion, including Christianity, it has a ritualistic system, and that is the major problem with religion.
Yeah, but what if somebody have the strongest paradigm around them?
See what you say, sir. How can someone have the strongest paradigm? What is the measurement, sir? How do we measure the strongest paradigm? What is the criteria? You see, sir, in spirituality, you cannot say, oh, this person has this. No, it's not possible. It can come into ego. That is the ego coming in, because it leads to comparison. Are you getting it? So, because true spirituality, we are from the same source. Just like what Arena said, we are element of God, living in God. You see that? So there's no strongest there, because everybody has subjective experiences that become their personal absolute truth. But the challenge is when people begin to define a standard based on their subjectivity. That is the question. That is the problem with spirituality, with religion.
No, I believe, doctor, sorry, like it's getting a little lengthy, like it's getting a little interesting. I don't participate that much, and Dr. Jessica will second me that I say my piece and I'm out of it. What I'm saying to you is, like, this is my saying also, no matter of your color, your race or whatnot, because if you slice two wrists with a knife, we all bleed red.
Yeah.
Okay, like the white person does not carry a yellow blood, or a dark person do not carry a purple blood.
Yeah.
Right. So we all bleed red. So yes, I 100% agree with you. Like, we're all children of God.
Yeah.
We're all the He's our almighty creator.
Mm-hmm.
No doubts, no ifs, no argument.
Mm.
But the thing is, the path, the vessels that you choose with your own liking, how to explore the divine source, how to get there, like how to put yourself in front of him and ask him for his merciness, his forgiveness, his blessings and everything.
So what I'm saying to you, in transpersonal psychology, we don't believe we need a mediator, because you are a spirit. That is our foundational philosophy in transpersonal psychology. So we are spirit trying to have a physical experience. That's the foundation of transpersonal psychology. So in that regard, there is no need for an intermediary to religion. You can have a guide, but you are a spirit, and spirit is beyond time and space. So you have acts, because that is your nature. It's not something you are trying to be or something you are trying to become. It is who you are. That is what we believe in transpersonal psychology.
But I'm still waiting for your input, and I will ask Dr. Jessica and my sister, sister, Her Highness Nadia, to give me something to for me to
I think
to receive. Is what I'm still waiting for that answer from you, doctor, that what is the outcome of that human body that we have left in the jungle without any environmental? Where will what after 16 or 10 or 20 years can that person be welcome to the human society, that say like bringing him to Paris or bringing from the jungle straight to Paris? Would he be comfortable? Would he be I don't know, like my English sometimes don't work with me. Like what would be his role in that model, and how would we as living, as we call, urbanized people, that how would we be reacting to the things that that gentleman or person will be doing or interacting with, because the exposure was limited for him. He was in jungle. He have no imposement, no guidance, no nothing. But as you said, the spirit was there. So will the spirit make him a better human living? Sorry, a question a little bit longer, but like I would have all the,
okay.
like if you can
I'm
explain
happy
me
to.
Yeah. So Dr. Jesse, please go ahead.
One of the question here is of human learning, or it's one of the questions. And, how can people learn values without some value system being taught to them, whatever the value system is? And so, I did raise my children through the Catholic education system. And they were Catholic growing up, and that was the church that we went to. But, I wanted to, and it's hard to say. I mean, you can't really say to a 3-year-old, you are an ethereal light being, so go be your ethereal light being. And I love to tell a story here about learning that is, you were talking, Syed, about the hot stove. And as much as I'm a teacher, and I'd love to think that a teacher goes blah, 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 and then a student learns, it's really not how we learn. And it was so funny and cute. But my son was like 1, and we were in the kitchen. I was making dinner, and he had his little safe toys right next to me, and Tupperware or whatever he was playing with. And I said, don't touch, hot. And all of a sudden his eyes were really big and he was really curious. And I kept making dinner, but I kept looking at him because he had a really curious look on his face. And I kept saying, don't touch hot. I had aroused his curiosity. And so he did not stop with that curiosity. And finally, I turned around in the fridge. I was looking in the fridge, and he touched the stove with one finger. And he went, ah, and he fell back, and he had a little boo-boo. And then he never touched the stove again. And then he understood. But so, I mean, it's all nice, and I'm not disagreeing. We are ethereal light beings, but we are in a human body. And that human curiosity learns by making mistakes. As much as the environment that I wanted to provide him was safe, he still found a way to make his own mistakes and learn from that mistake. It's kind of bridging the gaps a little. I know it's not. Did that help, or did that kind of move in your direction, Syed, a little?
If I want to repeat, before, thank you, Jesse. Before Your Highness, Dr. Syed, your question was a man left in the jungle. You're saying that, abandoned the jungle at like 16 years, how can he come back? Okay, and my direct question to that is that being left in a jungle, it's a physical limitation, not a spiritual limitation. The spirit, according to transpersonal theory, has the ability to transcend time and space. There is no distance in the spirit. So the person that was left in the jungle can contact spiritual knowledge by using the spiritual senses, and they can go into dimensions of reality, into centuries, yes, even into this postmodern world. So being left alone in the jungle, it's a physical limitation, but spirit has no limitation. It's above time and spirit. Your Royal Highness, please. Talk to us, please.
Yes. I believe that the question of Brother Sayed is very, very interesting. Very interesting. Why? He's telling you a man in a jungle, because he has not received the knowledge of religion, he would be able to, because he has not that, so he has not evolution, and he cannot really receive the right behavior, etc. I want to explain to Brother Sayed, we are all learning from our environment, receiving teaching from all what is around us. Some people are receiving, are growing up, like Jessie just said. She gave the teaching to her children, Catholic, okay? She was giving them this knowledge. Why? Because she received herself this knowledge by someone, by her family or someone else, you know, and she is making the continuity of what she received. And she will teach her children exactly what she was taught. You understand? Even without verifying if it was the truth or not. The man in the jungle will learn also in another way. He will learn through the jungle. All what you are learning from the religion, he will learn it from the nature, and he will have another knowledge that you don't have access also. Because the knowledge that he will have, it will be more profound sometimes than a book. You understand? Because you are learning, you know, in religion or anything, and every knowledge, all what is light for you today will be darkness for you tomorrow. Why? Because you are in perpetual evolution. And, you know, for example, let's say that everybody was saying, just an example, okay? Everybody was saying about Darwin. Darwin saying that we are coming from the animals. We are an evolution of the monkey, okay? But today, with the evolution of the intelligence, can you really believe that we are the evolution of the monkey? No, because if we were coming from the monkey, the human being and the monkey will not be at the same period at the same time. It's not possible. We cannot speak about evolution. So today, even some big scientists are questioning this knowledge, what was a big knowledge before. I will tell you one thing. One day, just an example. One day, my child has an exercise, and I was explaining him a lot of things. But because in the school they were teaching him something else, so he got to 0. Okay, and he told me, "Mom, what you told me was fake because I got 0." I said, "No, you are not wrong. They don't understand yet the meaning of what you are telling them, because in the knowledge, there's a level of understanding. You cannot teach someone who is 10 years old the same thing that someone in the university. It will be very difficult for him. So everything has its time. So people who are using the religion as guide now, tomorrow they will read the book with another knowledge, and they will find evidence that, oh my gosh, why now suddenly everything is clear? Why I have not seen that before? You know? Because at the minute they start by thinking themselves, and this is what the holy books are doing. They are pushing the human being to the unlimited power, to go deeply in your spirit, to touch, to see the truth and make your own experience.
Yes, yeah.
if you don't make your own experience, you will repeat all the time what was told to you, and you will teach the same mistake sometimes to your own children. And your children have they will continue by receiving a teaching of ignorance and teaching that to the others generation, this ignorance. But when you teach the people and say, okay, this is what is written, I have to read it. I made an experience. For example, I was reading the holy books, the Quran, Bible, Torah, etc. I read a lot of things, I was reading a lot of things. And more I was reading them, and if I go back to 30 years ago when I was reading them, I can assure you it was not the same understanding. This is why I told you what was the light for you yesterday is the darkness for you today, because you are making an evolution of understanding. Your intelligence, you are no more really using this intelligence because you are using the consciousness. And in the spiritual knowledge, you are reading with your consciousness. When you read the things with your consciousness, you are reading at 360 degrees the things. You see everything which is behind every word. You understand? So this is, I believe that to answer to Brother Syed, his question, doesn't matter, brother, if you don't understand now the things, one day you will surely understand, because the human being is in perpetual evolution, and your environment is teaching you always something new. But the best knowledge that you can do is to go deeply within you and verify everything by yourself. Without your own experience, you will repeat exactly what the others are telling you, and you will never understand. You will never understand different things. A lot of people in the religion, by ignorance of what they have been taught, are killing some people now in the name of God, thinking that because they are killing the others, they will go to heaven. This is a wrong teaching. This is an ignorance that you are receiving from a teaching that you are receiving from ignorant people. And this is why it is important to make your own experience and your own research. And this is what we call the unlimited power in every religion. This is what I think. I hope I have answered to Brother Syed.
No,
Thank you so much.
Thank you, my lady, Your Highness. But my thing is, like, when I jumped into this conversation, sorry, I came late a bit, is where we were talking about cultural imposing of cultural, life living criteria or guideline. Like as Dr. Jessica just gave an example, she laid a guideline to her son that direction, if we go, you will get hurt. She laid the guideline. Now, had she imposed that on her child, then that child would, the end result of the child would have not been with a burned thumb or a little sore on the thumb, because the son did not follow the guideline, although the guideline was established or given to him that please do not go in that direction, you will get hurt. Please do not do that, you will get hurt. Same thing coming back to Her Highness Majesty. You know, like the example that you give, that these people go and kill in the name of God. Okay, so they are being given the guidelines from their mullahs or from their holders that these are the guidelines, you follow that, Jannah is there for you. So they are they're following the guidelines that had been given to them. Although, yes, you're right, they have not explored their inner side, that who they are and whether they didn't question that guideline. This is what I'm getting to. They didn't question the guideline. Okay, if I do follow that, what is the end result? Okay, fine. If maybe I get the Jannah, but on what grounds I'm getting the Jannah? This is the balancing that one has to have to accomplish the goals. At what cost you're accomplishing those goals? You know, like I can go and become like a rich. Like how do I do that? Is there's many avenues in front of me. I can go rob a bank. I can go rob a jewelry store, or I can work hard on myself and do something productive where I can earn and get, like rich. So these are the avenues that one has to be there, like my parents or my colleagues or my elders. They have to be there for me to say, Sayed, if you go and rob a bank, you'll end up in a jail. If you go and kill someone and get his wealth, you'll probably get electric chair, right? So they are sharing their experiences because I am not exposed, like I meaning not at the age of where I have seen the world or seen some light of the world. But this is like, we all live on experiences of the others. We become doctors and lawyers and, presidents and chief prime ministers and all that. It is based on other people's knowledge because we are reading, we go to university, we go to institutions, we read somebody else's experiences and practicals. It is not that you are exploring your within and becoming the prime minister one day. No, you cannot do that because you have to have some credentials on you.
Sorry, sir. I think this is, sorry, I appreciate your contribution, but the line of discussion is totally out of the context of what we are discussing today. Because we are talking about spiritual knowledge, sir. So it's totally different from acquiring transferable skills, through skill acquisition. It's totally different, sir. So that's not the background I'm coming from. In that, of course, you need a mentor. When you go and learn, acquire, you need a mentoring. But when it comes to spirituality, we're talking about finding your own pathway, discovering your own authenticity. That is what we are talking about in transpersonal psychology, sir.
I'm so sorry, because I thought like when I came in the room, you were talking about something like, as I said in the beginning, no, like, please, I beg your pardon. I'm not like saying anything to hurt anyone, or like maybe my English, the choice of words are not proper.
You're not hurting anybody. I'm just,
No, doctor, what I'm saying.
This discussion to focus.
Brother Sayed, in religion, someone who really understands the religion and understand the love of God and why God has sent holy books for us to understand different things and facilitate our life here. It's because the religion has not to be imposed to anyone.
Yeah.
You cannot even impose that to your children. You can advise them, okay, go, I advise you to practice the Christianity or the Islam, or, but you cannot impose to that. And because some people are imposing that, they are damaging the human being. And some of them because they were imposed in different things. And religion is an evolution, where you are making you have a lot of people who are changing religion later because they understood and feel comfortable in something else. Mm-hmm. You understand? Yeah. This is why we cannot impose anything in a religion. Nothing. And people who are knocking in the door, come and join God through this intermediary or this intermediary. I mean, through Islam or through Christianity or through, it's something that it's not really good, because you cannot impose that to the people. In spirituality, it's different. In spirituality, it's your direct connection with God. In religion, you are going through the intermediary of religion. Mm-hmm. And people, they are free to continue if they feel comfortable with the religion, to continue, because, it's a level of understanding This is why some people understand the spirituality now, and others need time to understand and come to it. And everybody has his own level. And this is why we are here to, like Jessie was saying, she gave that to her child. Don't touch that because it is hot. Why? Because she made the experience. If she didn't experience that, she would never say anything to her child.
Yeah.
You understand? But because of the experience, she could advise him, but she could not stop him of touching that. She could advise him, but she could not stop him. And in religion, it's the same. You can advise your children to follow that or that religion, okay, by your own experience, because you feel comfortable in that. But you cannot obligate them to follow this religion, because if you do that, you are against the law of God, because it's written nowhere in the holy books. I don't know any book where it's written you have to impose the religion, this religion, because it's the best. It's not true. It is not true.
Wow, thank you so much, Your Highness. Dr. Said, that is the background in transpersonal psychology. We don't believe in any tradition. We believe that we are all spirit trying to have a human experience. And that becomes the foundation for engaging with humanity. We engage with everybody through that connection. So in transpersonal psychology, we don't see color, we don't see gender, we don't see race, because spirit has no gender. That is the fundamental philosophy of transpersonal psychology. And so it's a non-religious concept of spirituality. So that is the premise by which we operate, our fundamentals philosophy within the transpersonal movement in modern psychology. And so, and also, as we know that a spirit, by experience, transcends time and space. And so there's a universality, there's no limitation for the spirit, live in a physical body, yes, but the physical body is not a limitation to knowledge that can be attained by the use of spiritual senses, and in that direction, even though there's a guide, but the guide does not authenticate your subjective reality. And that's what I was trying to explain to you, sir, that even if you have a guide that based on their experience, that they can give you advice or teachings on the experience. However, we don't use people's spiritual experience to authenticate our own subjective reality. And that is totally against what is being practiced in most religions, because you can see that in most religious cycles, that is the problem. You have a guru, you have a priest that, whatever he says is the final. And that's why religion has a way of making people to become dogmatic. It conditions their thinking. It does not give them the room to explore the authenticity of their individuality in terms of their reality and their own self-identity. And that's totally against what we teach in transpersonal psychology. You are a spirit. You are not trying to be a spirit. You are a spirit. You don't try to be who you are. You only express what you are, who you are. It's an identity, and that is the substratum for exploring universality. And that's why we strongly believe that transpersonal psychology has values that will bring unity and peace in the world. If this curriculum is taught, in all the nations of the world, it brings about the way we engage with ourselves. There's no color, there's no race, because we are not relating with each other based on materialization or the embodied self or the body identity. And that's so pure. It's just pure, because at the end of the day, this body will decay in the grave, and because spirit goes beyond time and space. And so what is the, and if you look at the problem of the world, it's based on materialism, the divisions, the land, the fight, the government, the value system that's has permitted both secular world and religious world is materialization. And that's the problem that we see in transpersonal psychology, that transpersonal psychology can solve that problem by teaching people to understand that you are not your bank account. Your value is not determined by the money you have in your bank account, by the degrees you have. Your value is determined by your spiritual identity, which transcends time and space. And that's just a summary of our fundamental philosophy within this transpersonal cycle. Okay, thank you, sir. So let's continue there. Talking about knowledge, what led to that interesting discussion was when I asked a question. You can believe something and not have the knowledge. So a lot of people have many belief systems. They believe in many things, but they don't have the knowledge. And that belief comes from they listening to teachings from people they respect, people that put in place of authority. I will give you an example. I won't mention it. There's one popular priest in my country of birth. He came on the national here and he said, oh, COVID-19 is caused by 5G. And it was so embarrassing. I mean, it was so embarrassing to me. It was very an insult to our intellectual integrity that somebody would relate a biological entity to an electromagnetic wave. See, they are not in the same dimension. And because he's so popular and he has millions of followers and people believe him, and these are kind of things they will say, and these are people that have been to school and a lot of that are PhD, even doctors that follows this guy. I mean, the British government banned him from televising his program in the UK, and then even the Nigerian government also reaching, to him because he's a river figure in the religious circle. So he said that, so everybody believed that. And that's what I'm saying. That's what really, disturbs us in transpersonal cycles, that someone is saying something, you don't have the critical thinking skills and the critical ability to look at it critically, and you have the condition to believe everything they say because they have these so-called spiritual experiences, and that like what set them apart from everybody. No, in transpersonal psychology, we are all spirits. That is this philosophy. We are all spirit trying to have a physical experience. And everybody is on different evolution journey. That's it. Everybody is on different evolution journey. And you don't need me to authenticate your spiritual knowledge. I'll give you another example. Somebody called me, one guy called me, said, oh, I had a dream. And in the dream, God told me that the COVID-19 vaccine is going to turn off to metals in people that take it. I said, wow, that is so serious. And I said, how do you evidence this, your revelation? What is the evidence of that? So you believe that. So what is the evidence of that information you have? And how can you prove it? And he said, oh, God told me to tell the whole world. I said, yeah. I said, your sanity needs to be checked. I'm very worried about you. So these are kind of things that we question in spiritual psychology. Because spiritual psychology does not delete or eliminate your intellectual property. The place of your intellect, the place of your cognitive ability, the place of critical thinking, it's incomplete that in transpersonal psychology. When every knowledge, like what we're looking tonight, is the nature of knowledge. So you have this knowledge. How do you evidence the reality of this knowledge? What is the usefulness of this so-called knowledge that you receive from the so-called spirit? So these are the kind of thing we critically explore and we teach in transpersonal psychology, because every information that you claim that is spiritual must be tested, on certain criteria, which I'm sharing with us tonight. How do you test that knowledge? And the question goes back again, that what is knowledge itself? Putting the question this way makes the question so really hard. And here are 3 other ways to put it. What is it to know something? When you said you know something, what is it to know it? Then under what condition is it true? that a person qualifies as knowing that something is the case. And that answer is theory of knowledge, which is the epistemology, which is the theory of knowledge. Spiritual knowledge is the same thing, that is subjected to. So what qualifies a knowledge to be a knowledge? So what is knowledge? How do we know that we know? What is knowledge? How do we know that we know? And there's a further clarification of the question is, what is knowledge? And the three ways the word know is used. For example, we say Bob knows how to ride a bicycle. And that's his ability or practical knowledge. For example, say Bob knows Cassandra. That is acquaintance knowledge. Bob knows the heart is round. That is propositional knowledge or knowledge by description. So the theories of knowledge we are looking at are about the third kind of knowledge called knowledge that, or propositional knowledge, knowledge by description. Knowledge by description. Knowledge by description. And to back what Your Majesty said, when you have an authentic spiritual knowledge, you have the cognitive ability to describe what you experience. So your authenticity lies on your subjective reality. It is not based on an external criteria or a standard for judging that knowledge. I'll say it again. So authentic knowledge, which is spiritual, is based on your subjectivity. There is no external criteria or an objective criteria that somebody can look at you and use that to determine how authentic your subjective reality is. That is what we believe in tranpersonal psychology. That your knowledge becomes personal truth, becomes an absolute knowledge within your domain of subjective experience. However, the practicality of such knowledge has to be tested within the realm of reason and logic. Somebody said the other day, they are both heirs, and they said, oh, God told us to go and get married. And I questioned that. I said, wait a minute. God told you to go and get married. Do you know the implication of you two carrying the recessive sickle cell anemia gene will happen to the child you give birth? So are you saying that there is no other person that you can marry again? And they begin to look at that, and they begin to question that. What is the logic in that? Oh, we will pray, and then we won't have any sickle cell anemia. I say, oh, that is interesting. That is very questionable. These are kind of authenticity we're talking about, that you bring in knowledge within the realm of logic. So you say you receive a spiritual knowledge. The spiritual knowledge must pass the test of logic and reason, and must pass the test of cognitive analysis. That is being used, being practical, that can be described and is also applicable, to the realm of logic and the realm of social interaction. So spiritual knowledge is not a knowledge that is out of this world, and it's not practicable, and it's not useful to develop humanity and to raise the value of human dignity. These are the kind of criteria that we look into in transpersonal psychology, that spiritual knowledge must come within of social application of knowledge. Again, how can we be sure I know something? Plato and his colleague came up with the answer to the question. And they said, for you to have certain knowledge, that is propositional knowledge, you have to subject your knowledge claim, yes, to 3 tests. So if you look at the Plato philosophy, the Platonian philosophy of claim of knowledge, let's have a look at that quickly. It said knowledge which is the engagement of the mind. The mind has to be informed for faith to operate, and that has to be based upon the word. And I'm just using the Christian theology to explain this concept of that, and to see that virtually every religion has a concept of spirituality, and research has been done over the years to look at a common theme within most major religion, and there's a common theme that they have in their spiritual identity and philosophy, which is they all agree that there is a spiritual dimension to life. Every major religion believes in that. That's a spiritual dimension to life. And if that be the case, And then how do we know that we know? You know, if you look at the first test there, you must believe the statement. You know, I mean, the test one that you must believe the statement. You can't know something unless you believe it. That is it. You can't know something unless you believe it. You know, for example, I can't know there is God unless I believe that God exists. Belief is necessary for knowledge. It is part of the package. Example, knowledge of time. You must believe your watch keeps accurate time in order for you to know whether or not it does. You know, and that's what's called faith. You know, is assurance of things that is revealed and promised, you know, in the word or in revelation that you have true. Even though unseen, it gives you, the believer, a conviction that what you expect in faith will come to pass. So there is a link, a direct link between your belief and your knowledge. You can't know something unless you believe. And the flip side of this statement is, how do we come to believe? Where does belief come from? You know, what is the basis of our belief system? Of course, the environment, our interactions, social interactions, you know, will influence our belief system, you know, within the domain of our ordinary consciousness. However, spiritual belief goes beyond that, because you don't need to show that you believe in a particular thing for you to become spiritual. In spiritual knowledge, it's like saying, do you believe you are human? You are human already. You are human, and that's why you are interacting. So in spirituality, you are a spirit trying to have a physical experience. So you don't need to show that, oh, I believe I'm a human. No, you are, you know that. How do you know that? Because you are. That is what we teach in transpersonal psychology, that you are a spirit. You are not trying to be, oh, I believe I'm a spirit. No, you are a spirit. And the fact that you believe you are a spirit, so you are firm, you have the evidence within you of your spiritual nature, and that establishes the parameter and the domain of knowledge in your self-belief. I'll say it again. No, that establishes the parameter for knowledge in your self-belief, because you are a spirit, not you are trying to have a spirit. No, you know, some people have this expression, oh, I'm trying to have a spiritual experience. No, you are a spirit already. You are a spirit. And so every day you have a spiritual experience. But religion brings you to the domain of having an experience within a ritualistic environment. And that is what is contrary to what we teach in transpersonal psychology, because you don't need to be in a religious gathering or to be within a religious ritualistic system before you can experience who you are. So spirituality is who you are. It's the very nature of yourself. So based on that nature, you are a spirit trying to have a physical experience. That is our fundamental belief in transpersonal psychology. And so what you are is who you are. You are not trying to believe you have it, you know, it's because you know. And because what you are already. How do you know you are? Because you have experience. So based on the experience of your spiritual identity, you are having spiritual experiences every day. And that is what we teach in spirituality within the domain of transpersonal psychology, that you don't need to go through a ritualistic religious system before you can claim to have spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge becomes part of your identity. You are that, and that is who you are. And so you are only walking on this planet to express your knowledge of yourself. And that's it. And that goes back to what Your Majesty said beautifully, that you are element of God, living in God. That's so profound. Because if you are a part of an element, it shows that your very nature is spirituality. I use an example from the word of Jesus. When he said to the Pharisee in the Torah, he said, "Ye are gods and the children of the Most High God." They pick up stone and they want to stone him to death. That you being human, you are equating yourself to God. And he said, "Ye are gods and the children of the Most High." That's what he said to them. And that is the fundamental philosophy we believe in transpersonal psychology, because that is who you are, your very nature. God is a spirit. You are a spirit. You are not trying to be a spirit. No, you are. That is your true nature. The problem is coming to that realization, through the mind. The mind, the ordinary mind, the conscious mind, to be very specific, the conscious mind fights that very thought. So the battle with us about spiritual knowledge is the knowledge we receive through our senses into our conscious self, and then the knowledge from our higher self. It is always fighting at the domain of the soul. The soul becomes the intermediary part of us that is navigating between the knowledge from the external stimuli, from our environment, and the knowledge we receive from our higher self. And that is the conflict of the man, the conflict of the soul. And that's where the problem lies, because we spend majority of our time within our ordinary day conscious. We get knowledge through our natural senses. So most of our knowledge base is from our sensory apparatus. And so we've neglected the higher self that can contain knowledge from the superconscious that has nothing to do with any religion or ritualistic system to get that knowledge. However, religion put in place methods, system, rituals for people to become spiritual. But in other words, what we teach in transpersonal psychology, it is opposite. You don't need any system because that is who you are. It's like a male child. I'm a male by my biological genetic composition. I don't need to prove to you I'm a male. That's the problem with spirituality. You are a spirit and you have access to spiritual knowledge. Why? Because that is your nature. That is who you are. That's your identity. And so based on that, your life should be navigated through spiritual knowledge that will influence your decision-making process. And that is the beauty of spirituality, because it's a totally subjective reality, a dimension of reality that is subjective and is more real than our sensory apparatus. Why? It is an eternal dimension of reality. It's a dimension of reality that transcends time and space. It is not limited by culture, by geography, by race, by gender. No, it's a unique, eternal dimension of our existence. And we need to operate in our natural senses by getting spiritual knowledge that has pragmatic impact, that influence. And that goes back to, as I begin to summarize my lecture today, to what I said at the beginning of this class. What is the usefulness of a spiritual knowledge that does not have impact in your ordinary day? And that goes back to what Your Majesty said, that I don't need to show if I have spiritual knowledge. It is reflected in my behavior and what I call transpersonal behaviorism. That true spirituality, true spiritual knowledge should influence our value system. True spiritual knowledge should influence our relational system. How we relate with people, how we treat people are the evidence of true spiritual knowledge. And that is the recipe for peace in this world. If we can teach this in our schools and we can educate all our lecturers, our teachers, our mothers to see humanity in the light of our spiritual identity and to have this knowledge of spirituality, peace is possible. Peace in the world is possible. We can live with a neighbor, because in spiritual knowledge, there is no gender, there's no race, there's no color. And in spiritual knowledge, you have a knowledge of eternity, timelessness. You know that there is no Palestine, there is no Jerusalem. These are physical entities that will pass away. You will leave this planet and move to your next evolution after this life. If you have such knowledge, we have peace in this world. We have happiness in this world. The crime rate will stop. Why are we killing ourselves? That is the ego. You want to acquire material things that cannot stand the test of time. Material things will wade away. they will pass with time. They can lose their value. And you see a lot of mental illness that we are having in this world today is because of the lack of true spiritual knowledge. People base their value system, they base their possession, their pursuit of material things, and they use that as the parameter to judge people, to place people. So if you are not materially wealthy, they don't give you respect. Poor people are poor people. No, in true spirituality, is true spiritual knowledge, there is no discrimination. We don't discriminate against people because spirit is the same. We are all from the same element. We are all from the same source. And that is a true spiritual knowledge that we can use to elevate the dignity of humanity. The world needs this knowledge. This knowledge needs to be taught in our schools. And that's why I proposed to the referendum. I argue and I propose a transpersonal curriculum, and that is non-religious. It's not affiliated to any religious philosophy or religious identity. It's purely non-religious concept of spirituality that believes we are all spirits, regardless of the age, the body, how old is the body. I talk about children's spirituality. Kids are kids, they are not kids in the spirit because they are ageless in the spirit. It's a body that is still young, and it doesn't limit the ability to transcend time and space, to use their spiritual senses at that tender age. And so true knowledge goes back to practical application of spirituality. That is true spiritual knowledge. A true spiritual knowledge, it is useful in elevating the dignity of humanity. True spiritual knowledge is not something that leads to ego. No. True spiritual knowledge brings about elevation of dignity of humanity, respect, peace, and it's not something that is imposed on people. True spiritual guide allow people to find their own authenticity, to evolve, and to seek their own truth by looking inward, to evolve and to be their true potential. It's not self-limiting. True spiritual knowledge does not impose any tradition on people. True spiritual knowledge is allowing people to evolve into their highest form of self by expressing the higher self. And that is what we teach in Tranpersonal Psychology. Thank you so much for your time. And I really appreciate everyone that came tonight. So we have a few minutes for questions or contribution. Thank you. Yes, question? Yes, go ahead, Your Royal Highness.
It's not really a question, it's just a contribution. And this is very beautiful how you explained everything. I just want to add one thing to the difference between the human being and the animals is very big, because the human being is conscient that he is a human being, and the animal is not aware that he is animal. So when you are aware that you are a human being, like when you arrive to this stage, you want to know more about you. And this is where the knowledge and spirituality enter in scene, because you are going beyond the physical, beyond the form, and you start to ask yourself who I am. And when you start to ask yourself who I am, you understand that you are more than a form, than a body. Why? Because you know that this body is limited, and the law of nature, the law of physical law is that this body have to disappear one day. So if you don't understand who you are, that you are more than a form, you will be in very big panic, because you will say that I will disappear. And where the religion are very important sometimes for people who have not understood a lot of things, because the religion are teaching them that there is a life after this physical life. And the religion are already calling you to make your own research and go beyond to this physical body. And yes, you are not trying to have an experience. You are doing an experience. You are not trying. You are already in.
Yes.
You are experiencing the form. You understand? And this is why when you know yourself and you understand that you are a spirit, you have no more barriers.
Yes.
You have no more limit, because you will see the others at the same level than you.
Yes.
Spirit like you. You will understand that there's no color in the spirit.
Yes.
Like, for example, to understand what is the spirit, let's take, for example, the ocean. Let's say that the ocean is the universal consciousness, where we are all linked together, our source. People are calling it God, others, doesn't matter how we call it, but there's something above us, and that we have to recognize it. So let's say that this is the spiritual consciousness, the universal consciousness. Now, if you are going to this ocean and you are taking a glass of water from this ocean, can you say that the water in the glass is different from the ocean? No. Okay. So now let's take another glass of water and add some color on it, some paint. Let's say that it is red or black. Okay. Let's add some black color on it. Can you say that this water is different from the ocean? No. You added only some color on it.
Yeah.
But it is the same water. And when you put this water where you added the color, you put it in the ocean, the color will disappear. Exactly. Because you will receive your real identity. You are part of the ocean. You are no more called glass of water. You are called ocean. So consider that this glass of water is it's the body. It's only a form. And this is what we are. Yeah. We are an extraction of this universal consciousness in a body. What is dividing us is only the form, but we are all equal. We are all coming from the same source. And doesn't matter the color, because what you have inside is the same. Wow. And that it is very interesting. So I love the beauty of spirituality and transpersonal psychology, because you are learning to go beyond the limits, and you are learning who you are really. It is said that God has created us at his image, an extraction of God. We are an extraction of God. Yeah. And that's it. And if you see the beauty of this material life, you will see that it is just an experience. We are all like, it's like God is experiencing the form. He is in the human being. He is in the animals, in the vegetables, in the minerals. God is experiencing the form. This is what we call the form thoughts. These bodies that you can see around the world, may it be human, may it be animals, vegetal, mineral, it's a form thoughts. You understand? This is what is this material life, a form thoughts.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Mama Flo, we're happy to have you. Please go ahead and contribute.
Thank you very much, Doc. That is an amazing subject.
Thank you.
A subject that will it will actually force out some truths. The truth that is never said. The truth that is never taught even in schools. Because when I'm listening to this, I am taking myself back to school when I was an infant. It was different what I was taught from what you are telling me today. And when I'm listening to the way your postulation, you are actually putting the truth in the open, you know, uncovered truth for anyone to consume. And I'm saying, hey, wait a minute. It wasn't like so when I went to school. There were structures. You know that when you went to school, there was something called strata.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Strata, structures. You knew who you were when you were at school. There were some walls that were built to us. We knew there were those walls, and we grew up knowing that that one is a wall. You can penetrate through that wall. That wall is better than the space you are in yourself. You know what? This subject, it's a pity I'm seeing very few people, you know, registered in. My dear brother,
Yes, ma'am.
this subject can cause war. It can cause wars because you are actually saying, wait a minute, all what you've been teaching the world is lies.
Yeah.
Here is the truth. Look at the truth. And now the people can say, what we were taught is different from what we are learning today. I am saying in brief and in simplicity, let me cut a long story short. Lucky are those who have known this truth that I never knew for 65 years
Wow.
of my life.
Wow.
Never knew all this.
Wow.
I thought there were superior people who were better than others. How they defined themselves better, I don't know. I don't know what definition they used, but it has been a worry to myself.
Yeah.
I went to school, I did all these degrees, and I'm saying to myself, I'm yet to discover this definition that defines races and that defines other people. Even if you are educated, I liked what the Queen said. You take the water and then you dye it. And then you fool yourself and say, this water is different. But you know, it's you who dyed the water. Anyway, brother, thank you very much for cleaning the brains and to awakening them up, especially my one. You really cleaned my brain today. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mama Flo. And I want to say thank you to the to our Royal Majesty for accepting the call of God. You know, I'm boldly, I can say that boldly, because if she has not accepted this vision,
she would not have been where she is now.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
So I want to say thank you to His Royal Majesty, the King himself, and the Queen Nadia, and Mama Flo. I can tell you with all integrity that by the grace of God, I have designed this curriculum to be taught in schools.
Thank you.
Yes, it will be taught in schools, you know, and I'm sending it to the king. To the king. So we have a curriculum already established, which is, you know, on transpersonal psychology, and it will be taught in schools, and I'm working in the UK, which also I'll be sending to the government of the UK for approval to teach transpersonal psychology from secondary schools. Yes.
Change it, sir. Change it for us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
By the grace of God, man. And with the help of the Queen and the King, we are going to revolutionize.
Thank you to the King and thank you to the Queen.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Your Highness. Welcome, sir.
Aloha. Thank you. Thank you. A blessing to be here alive and well and talking to all of you. We had a very beautiful conference the past few days, empowering women, talking about many issues from child molestation, sex trafficking, climate change, talk about peace. We talked about so many different things. It was an incredible time with many people from parts of the world that's engaged. The most singular thing that stood out was their honesty, the integrity, to speak the truth about what's happening in their lives, their countries, Mexico, the issues there, the prison system, the corruption, the media, so many things that was discussed. And as we talk here today about psychology and the human mind and religion and so forth, and Mama Flo made a statement, well, that starts wars. Two religions that actually started the first war was Protestants and Catholics. Catholics and Protestants fought. And when the Catholic side, the king couldn't be a king or a queen could be a queen until they were Catholics. And the king held the scepter, if you will. The queen the wife was just a queen consort, meaning that she had very little power, but still she was considered. So these were established by man. In ancient history, we'll talk about the Bible and talk about psychology as we are discussing today. Different people had different stations in life. Throughout history, we find that that there becomes apostles. We talk about people go out, they go and talk about the word of God, as you will. Apostles, then one person stood out in history, and that was Christ. He brought many people, not through violence, but through peace, but to change the mindset of how things were. It was the Catholicism that changed the whole idea, because when man got involved, he said, well, we can make it this way, we can do it this way, we can make it more perfect. But in fact, they were causing chaos and problems and contentions and issues all around the world. Religion is a cause of battles. So you have Protestants and Catholics that came. Then you had the Constantinople. Then you have the Muslims. Muslims against the Knight Templars, against the Catholic Church again. So all these issues go back and forth. The only religion, if you will, that didn't have all the issues was indigenous understanding. When the indigenous people would think everything they could think of, whether it's because as the Queen said, God is everything, in minerals and water and everything. And so in the indigenous culture, they would thank the tree for being a beautiful, lovely tree. And they would thank the animal for giving its life so it can eat. And would thank the ocean for abundance of the fish. That's who we were before colonization crept in and started forcing religion such as Catholicism and Protestant and Muslims and Hindu and Buddhist and Judea, all that came out. And this became the big separation. And there became that huge fence. So what Mama Flo was saying, and then is that listening to everything else, and change the mindset. It's not so much changing mindset, but to understand the root problem. Like psychology. If you don't go to the root problem, you're not going to change anything.
Yes, sir.
It's going to change. Nothing's going to move forward. To change the root problem, you don't have to accept it if it's bad. Accept it for yourself if it's good. Root problem, say, okay. Now, instead of placing blames, you say, now, how can I, me, myself, make a difference and make it better? So therefore, in my understanding, that then you bring in the God consciousness into your life, the God consciousness, and how you see creation. We all have the ability to create with our hands. We can create great good or great evil. We can take a tree, a block, and take a chisel and hammer and make the beautiful statue.
Yeah.
You can take a stone and carve it out and make it a heart, an animal, whatever you want to do, because you're creating that. It's what you create, you see, you can make happen. So to Mama Flo and to the Queen and to all those, I have listened very carefully to each of you. And each of you, what you said has value. And the value that you represent and through this discussion becomes the whole. As we come together as a whole, then we can make changes. Because now we understand psychologically, emotionally, physically, spiritually. So I appreciate listening to everyone, people, and that's what we are. We're people. We belong to a human family. We're talking about stations in life, the differences, and I just want to clarify that before we leave. There are different stations because someone may not be as well educated as another person. And there's someone who's more educated than that other person. It doesn't make it bad, bad or good or bad. It simply is. Because some people choose to get further education because they feel they want to know more. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. And there are some people who's just comfortable just doing where they're at. And that's a good thing because that's what they choose to do. It's all about choices. Right? It's all about choices. Whatever choice you make, be happy.
Yes, sir.
Naomi, she wants to be a very good coach. She wants to teach the young ladies how to be leaders. She does it through educating them about learning to follow each other, learning to trust each other. In sports, you learn to trust one another in the field, whether it's soccer, whether it's basketball, whatever it is. You have to trust your teammate, right? In order for you to excel and succeed and win whatever sport that is. She's teaching that. She's teaching that because she herself have learned that, right? Mama Flo and everyone have their own knowledge, which comes back. So it doesn't matter if a person is a person who is cleaning toilets or who's a king or a queen, what have you. Cleans toilet, and I promise you, I clean my toilets. I don't need to have servants to do that because it's not beneath me. I think differently. I can say, go do that, do that. I don't do that. How can I have them respect me if I don't respect them?
Yes, sir.
You don't do that. You don't. How can you go say to a woman, I love you, I want you, but be with another woman, and then another woman, and then another woman? That's not good. Then how can your words be truthful? How can it be honest? And when you do psychological examination, and we have people where they're talking about marriage counseling, health issues, whatever issues they come, people like to put biblical connotations with their thoughts. That's good. That's fine. But I like to hear not just the biblical side. I want to hear the experiences and the experiences of the people that have listened and helped. I want to hear about the successes and those successes. And therefore, I'm looking forward to your curriculum. As I mentioned to you, that once I have that, then my staff will go through it. And then in Kingdom of Hawaii can give you an accreditation.
Thank you, sir.
And look at it in a way that we agree to, because when you give accreditation, that means I agree with your philosophy of teaching, the principled way of which you're teaching. I'm agreeing that you are a man of higher integrity, and that by doing so, that I'm saying that please go and teach the world. We now support that. And that is what this means. And that means alliances. That means trust. And that means working together to break. Like the ocean analogy that Queen Nadia gave, and the humans, the animals, the minerals, all that is all true. Because we live in a world that we are linked to the DNA of all life on Earth. That's who we are. Because life is so short, so short. Today, I see me. Tomorrow, I might be gone. Never know. So let's move forward and pick our fights and win. And win and continue to win. That will better mankind. Better will endear all of us together, and that we are holding our head high, that we're humble, but we're strong. But thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Your Highness, please, can you close the class for us? Thank you.
Yes, sir, I'm here. Yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you for His Majesty to have joined us. And thank you to Mama Flo also. We thank you so much, my darling sister. I love you so much. And thank you for Jessie to have been also with us today, but she had to leave before. And thank you, Professor Wafemi. I love listening your teaching. You know, you are just an amazing professor. Thank you so much. So remember that with Professor Oluwafemi, it's all every Monday evening at 7 p.m. Transpersonal Psychology. And next week, he will probably teach us something again amazing. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful and blessed evening. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Aloha, everyone.
Bye. Bye, sir.
Aloha. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Bye.
Thank you, Hannah.
And thank you to our brother Said, who participated also today. It was just amazing. Thank you, brother Said, Naomi, Raj, and all the people who were with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Yeah,